for October 19th to order. And anybody have any public comments for items that are not on the agenda?
We're gonna do roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, roll call. Okay, this is
Okay.
Nia,
Present.
Lisa,
Present.
and I'm here.
Noted that Chair Shen and Vice Chair Gordon are unable to attend this evening, so it's just 3 in attendance.
Thank you. Any public comments for items that are not on the agenda?
No raised hands.
All right, thank you. Any agenda changes, additions, or deletions?
None.
Okay, no public comment, and approval of the minutes of the September 21st meeting. Get a motion to approve the meeting?
I will motion to approve the meeting from September 21st, 2023.
And I second.
All right, thank you. Any changes to the meetings, any additions? Hey, all roll call vote. We have to do roll call vote. Nia,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
and I vote yes. And now city official comments.
The only comment we have, you have some cards before you. We have the Coverly Artist Open Studios taking place November 4th from 1 to 5 p.m. It's going to be a really wonderful and fun-filled event. There's such a great diversity of artists there. So I encourage you all to attend and bring a bunch of friends.
Thank you. First non-action item is Code Art 2023. I just want to say that I thought that was a great event that happened. It gets better each iteration of it, and I just both of you and staff did a wonderful job on that.
Thank you so much. And thank you to all of the commissioners who turned up and led tours and helped run info booths and tag teamed and liaised with businesses and all the work and behind the scenes that happens there. And I think the tours especially were a big hit this year. They were all packed. In previous years, sometimes we'd have a tour, maybe 1 or 2 people show or nobody shows. They were all at least 18 to 20 people, I would say. So let's see, we have some exciting updates. We haven't unpacked all of the information or all of the images, but of course you're very well acquainted with this card that we distributed liberally throughout downtown so that people could find the 7 installations for October 12th through 14th from 5 to 10 p.m. So we had at least 13, we're estimating between 13,000 and 15,000 people visited Code Art this year, which is incredible, definitely bigger than any of the other ones we did. We had 11 community volunteers, 7 Coverly artists, and all commissioners participated. Thank you all very, 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 very much. 6 public tours led by staff and commissioners. Thank you all for doing that. And I think it was really enriching for our visitors who were a little uncertain or tentative about finding the projects themselves or uncertain about approaching the artist to ask them about it. We had 3 partner programs with partner downtown organizations, and the feedback from them has been really wonderful as well. And over 300 artworks by Coverly artists were gifted to Code Art visitors. So that was both part of their community service, but also a pre-promotion for their upcoming open studios. This is something a project that they've taken on, which has been really great. So here we have a few images. Granted, these are like just quick download. We grabbed a few of them to share with you tonight. So you have some daytime setup and some evening. Our very happy artists, our very limber visitors.
I was there when she did that.
Right, so there you see Chair Shen and Commissioner Miyagi in the background there, and there's the limber visitor too.
Yeah. These are great images.
Yeah, the photographers did a really nice job capturing, not only documenting the installations, but also capturing people's interface with them.
Interactions.
It'd be better if it's on. So that's it for the preview. That was just a little preview photo dump. And then we also have a short video. Can we show that? Again, this is rough. It hasn't been like cleaned up yet, but we wanted to have something to show you this evening. You've been in the top of the stairway that goes up on the bottom.
Everything is so dynamic, you know?
And just a quick shout out also to Denise, who did a ton of work with all the social media and getting the photographers and the videographer and the volunteer coordination
Yeah, she's great.
and the surveys and all of that done. So it's not just me and Nadia. And then also Brittany, who used to be officially part of our team, actually flew back to help us and do a ton of surveys too. So that was really fun.
Yeah, that's great.
Part of that was self-serving, I think, on her part. Right, any comments?
No, I think again, it was well done. So I had a good time. And it was just nice to see a lot of people out. And I know Denise was saying that she did some more marketing in terms of like public, like online, and also I think for some print, right? Yeah. So that was exciting to see that we could actually do that. And so it was nice because I heard some people say like, oh, I didn't know about this, but most people, it sounds like they were familiar with what was going to happen. So that was really nice. I was also going to say two other things that the piece on Florence, I'm blanking on the name, but I mentioned to him when I was talking to him that it's really nice to see him outside of that little corridor area. And he was really pleased as well with that location because it was just more visible. It was still a quiet area just in general, but at least he could be seen.
And there was always a crowd when I went there.
Yeah.
They always had people.
Oh, good. good. I think I went at down. I like to go at down times. And then the other thing I was just gonna ask is in terms of the hours. So on Thursday, it was like quiet. I think it got quiet around like 9 o'clock, and I'm wondering if that was just it was a Thursday, or is it like was there more traction in the like late night time on Friday and Saturday? Does that
Well,
make sense? What I just asked?
It does. What was kind of interesting, and we'll have to dig a little deeper in the metrics because we did have counters at different points for 15-minute intervals at different installations. For Thursday night and Friday night, we ended up with quite a few people who came up after dinner, kind of late, at least to Nate's project. Friday was by far the busiest night, and it had the latest curve as far as like the 9 o'clock count was still booming, and there were people still really engaging or just showing up a few minutes before it was time to close. So it's, you know, it's just hard to gauge what all of that is, because Thursday you get more commuters who don't necessarily commute in on Friday. It's a school night. Friday night and Saturday night, we definitely had a lot more families and small children running around pretty late, which was really fun. But I think it's just kind of different each year, because each time we've held it, it's been a different place in sort of COVID weather and everything else that's happening.
Right. And then the other thing too, and I don't really think there's much, and I'm sure this was in their contract, but I was talking to the cloud team, and my dad was actually asking them, you know, what happens at night? You know, what do you have to do with all your stuff? And they said, you know, they had to pack it back up. And I was just wondering, is there a way in the future, if we're going to continue, that they can use like a city space, or is it just better? Like they were right there, and I was like, oh, too bad they can't use the space right in that building. But is that something that's
Well, we actually
available
provide
for
a
them?
truck, and so the
Great.
truck took all the electronics, they blanketed it and loaded it onto the box truck.
Oh, great.
So
Okay.
most of the artists' projects, they keep things like their laptops and things like that, but anything that could be stored on the truck was rolled onto the truck and stored and secured overnight,
Okay, great.
and then re-delivered the next day.
Nice. Okay,
Yeah.
that wasn't clear to me, so that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes it easier for them because it's a schlep. Everything.
Okay, Lisa?
I loved it. I mean, I was there all 3 nights, 2 working and then 1 with my family and friends, and people were super enthusiastic. You know, like I talked to so many different people. Some people came very intentionally for it, went on the tours, were super into it, and some people stumbled upon it and went to everything. You know, I mean, it was just such a great thing. And the artists, when I was leading the tours, they were talking to everybody, but when I was just walking around, everybody was engaging with the artists. So they were just so accessible and so conversant, and you know, it was I think that was great. And the only bummer, I know everyone feels this way, was Jeffrey Yips, you know, just the that it didn't work the 3rd night. That was just too bad. But
He pulled off a heck of a pivot,
yes,
though.
he did, and that was great. But you know, you can never guess what's going to happen with technology and all those other stuff. So yeah, he was great at responding to that.
Well, again, congratulations. It was a great night. I went on the first tour at 6 o'clock, and it wasn't quite dark. And I think that you couldn't really see all the exhibits. Later on, towards the end of the tour, when it got darker, it was nice to be able to see it. But when we first started out, some of them weren't really viewable, I guess. You know, they were more static because there were no lights that you could see. So I think moving this to the evening, I think I told you this before, is just been a great thing, and to have lights and to have it more animated. And one question I have, and I'm almost afraid to ask this.
What's next?
No, well, we've
Okay.
been 2 years, right? Be the next one. But is there a chance for more exhibits? Is that a possibility?
Well, I think we got the same question from someone on the ELT when we did that tour. At this point, with this staffing, 7 is about all we can manage that we know we can achieve, and sometimes it's a squeaker. But I think that could be something that we could talk about as we go into the next code art. Probably this retreat in January, it's a little premature and we have a lot of other things to discuss. But, you know, does it make sense to perhaps have one or two fewer with larger budgets? Does it make sense? You know, we could start playing with some of that, but securing the locations is a bit of a challenge, and with power access and helping, especially the urban intervention teams, sort of get across the hurdle when some of them really haven't done an installation of this type in public space. So some of our intervention teams were very well seasoned and prepared for it, and some of them are more accustomed to a gallery setting, which, as you know, there's a lot of things that have to a lot of other things that have to be considered in public. So I think that's an excellent point and something we can definitely consider for the next one.
Great, thank you. Any other comments? Hey, moving on to the action item, which is about the King Artist Residency.
Excellent. So thank you. I know at our retreat last year, we had talked about the residency and spoken about, after we initiated the second one, that we would sort of regroup, look at lessons learned and what makes sense as far as launching the next one. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get our retreat done, and we do have a little time crunch where it makes sense to get this call out. So the ad hoc committee works closely with Commissioners Miyagi and Gordon, sort of talking through what were some of the lessons learned, what were some of the challenges, and identifying how we would shift the upcoming call for greater success, not only for a greater pool of candidates, but also shifting some of the language and the focus a little bit to make it more open. We feel like perhaps the last call was a little off-putting for some artists. One example is that we were looking for a social practice artist, and I think for some artists, they may think, well, that's not me, that's not what I do, but really looking this time more for public artists who have extensive experience in community engagement, because that's the piece we're looking for, is having ultimately an artwork that can be temporarily placed on King Plaza, but that it's grounded in that extensive community outreach. So also looking at extending the definition of creative community engagement, so they don't feel like they have to be doing some sort of workshop craft if that's not the way they're going to have the conversations that they want to have. So it could be done through food. It could be done through a series of coffee chats, or, you know, like just to leave it really open. Adding an applicant Q&A session was something that came up. We did a follow-up meeting with Reyes Magos too. And that was a suggestion he had, which I think is an excellent one that'll make it more a Q&A session before the applications are due. So if you're an artist and you're considering applying, you would come to a Q&A session with staff to ask any clarifying questions and sort of get a better sense of who you'll be working with and what resources are available. So that's in a nutshell what we've discussed. We would like to move forward with this call in the next month. So it's the same budget we're looking for, which is $50,000 all in. You may recall the way that was broken down is it's $20,000 for the artist for the 6 month of community engagement. There's a set aside $10,000 budget for materials should they need like materials for that engagement. And then there's a $20,000 set aside for the fabrication of the artwork on the plaza. So that could either go through the artist or that could go through staff contracting with a separate fabricator. So that is the ask this evening, and let me know if you have any questions.
Just want to ask a clarifying question about the intent for the community. So I heard you say, you know, expand how the artist engages with the community, whether it's through food or whatever else. Is the intent that the community gets to learn some art, or is it more conceptual that they're teaching them some idea or engaging with some idea?
It's more the latter. It's not to teach the community art. It's the workshops have been used as a tool to stimulate deeper conversation about equity and belonging in Palo Alto. So it is a method through which the artist may engage with the community and be able to have those conversations and get those key takeaways, and then maybe have follow-up interviews with them.
Okay.
Mhm.
And just as kind of the arts organization for the city,
Mhm.
why I do applaud that goal. But I'm just wondering if we would do something like every other time, like one is very conceptual community engagement, the other is really the practice of art and teaching and that type of thing. Or do we just feel that because it's such a diverse community and this is such an important topic, that that is the role of art in our community? I mean, just opening it up.
Those are great questions. So there are a couple of things at play there. So the King Artist Residency, right, was in response to council's request to create a artwork on King Plaza.
Right.
And so this was a way to keep those conversations within the community ongoing and fresh, and that each artist would have their different topic, perhaps, that they want to engage the community in. As for teaching artwork, we have the Palo Alto Art Center that does that. We have, other entities within Palo Alto that do that. We're not equipped to do that. We don't have the space or the resources to run classes through the city, and we don't want to compete with our same department programs. So that's not really a role that public art
Okay.
takes on.
So the engagement like that Reyes did with, his mask making or any of that stuff in his Coverly studio, that's to the extent that we want people to kind of, get their hands into it, basically.
Yeah, he was using that as a method to stimulate conversation, right? And so that's where the community engagement comes in, and the creative community engagement. And I feel like one of the flaws, perhaps, in the way it was worded before, is it made it feel like the artist perhaps had to hold workshops, and we want to be more open than that. They can do that, and there's certainly lots of ways that can be done, whether it's through storytelling, poetry,
Right.
food, anything. So just broadening that base a little bit, I think, will also key us up for better success, for them to be able to engage in meaningful conversation.
I know I said this a few years ago, but the only reason I'm asking is because I've seen hugely successful artists in residence programs,
Right.
and it has been through like a studio. So I understand that they have the resources
Right.
or but just something to think about, I think, for the future, even a partnership with the Art Center, because it's really brought so many people out because they're interested in it, and then they get introduced or more deeply involved in the art, and then these group shows or contribution to the final artwork. It's just such a wonderful community creation. So there's something really great about that too. And I'm just, just food for thought, maybe some collaboration in the future.
So
That's great.
you brought
Thanks.
an interesting point, Lisa, because I think there was a discussion at one point, I think, of having an artist in residence within like a department within the city.
Mhm.
And I think it's something that like I am open. I think it's more kind of like a full-time job. Like that's the challenge I'm seeing here. But like I'm open, if we can look at our funds again, to thinking about the idea, is there a way to make it larger so it's more like they're in residence with the city, and I don't know contract wise and how that would work, but like, can they do something larger? Is that more impactful? Is that what we want? Would that be of value, working with a few different departments? So that's just kind of, I think that's kind of what I think you're kind of touching upon, because artists don't have a lot of time and resources if they're doing other things.
Right.
So it's like, is it a larger, kind of like a poet, what's it called? Poet laureate, something like that. So, I mean, I'm open to that conversation, but I think the only thing I'm have a challenge of right now is that we haven't seen Christie's work and like how that's going in terms of the final outcome. So that would be my only hesitancy of just like, have we done two that have been successful? I mean, I think so far it seems like, it's moving along, but That would be my only concern.
Right, and I think basically what we did with the ad hoc committee was look at what lessons learned we have garnered thus far so that we can keep on track and launch the next one. So hopefully we'll have a good compelling group to work from.
All right, great comments. Any other comments? Okay, you have a motion to approve funds? I'll make the motion to approve funds in the amount of $50,000 for staff to launch a new call for artists for the next residency.
Second,
Hey, and the roll call vote, Nia,
Yes.
Lisa,
yes.
and me, yes. All right, so that takes care of the items for tonight. Any public letters?
Can I just, sorry, Ben, one just quick, with the King Artist in Residency, at some point, maybe during our, if we have a couple minutes during our retreat, it would be great to hear your feedback that you guys had. I don't know, can they share their feedback? Like their little.
Of course they
discussions? It'd
can.
be nice to know
Okay.
kind of what you guys are thinking as well. Thank you.
Any commissioner questions, comments, announcements, or future agenda items? All right, thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.